back here on Week 14 of the Bobcast, talking to all of our in-season head coaches. We'll begin with men's basketball head coach Webb Hatch. And Coach Hatch, a very big week for your basketball team, 2-0 over CAC competition winners over Penn State Harrisburg and Christopher Newport, a pair of close games, 76-72 over PSH, 83-81 over CNU in overtime. We'll begin with Penn State Harrisburg, a team that you finished tied in the standings with last season. They're pretty much in the same boat that you are, where they've got several new players, and they were out of the playoffs last year and looking to get in this year, and there are only so many spots. So what did you make of your team's effort in a big win against Penn State Harrisburg?
Well, I thought we played well. They've had our number. I believe they've beaten us 4 straight times. And it's last year, both losses, I think, were by 3 points, and the year before.
Another one-possession game in the year before.
So, Don Friday does a very, very good job with them. They've got a very good inside game. And, the game Wednesday night, they hit, 3 threes late.
And 3 free throws on another occasion.
And we didn't do a real good job. We were supposed to switch one time on that situation, and we switched, but we didn't get out and contest a shot. And then the last time we fouled him, which we shouldn't have done, obviously. But the bottom line is the game turned out the way we wanted it to, so we're real pleased with that win. And then the CNU game, I mean, what can you say about that? We've been in 3 overtime games so far this year. And the one thing I did say to the guys after Darren Campbell hit the 3 to send it in overtime, when we came over to the bench, I just said, we don't lose in overtime, guys. That's our mentality now. We don't lose overtime games. And I don't think we ever trailed in overtime.
Nope.
So it's a great win. CNU's got a very good ball club. Obviously, they were picked to win the conference again. It's the first time we've won down there. In fact, it's actually the first time I've ever won a game there as a head coach, because during my time at Marymount, we weren't able to ever beat them down there. And
that's another 10 seasons.
Right. I don't know what my record was there as a head coach, but it was probably like 0-10 or something. We played them 5 or 6 times when I was in Marymount. We've played them 5 or 6, 7 times during my time here at Frostburg, a couple of non-conference games, and then since they joined the CAC. So it's a real tough place to win. I don't think they've lost a conference. They had lost a conference game at home in 2 years.
We counted 21 straight home conference wins for them.
So it's a great win. The kids played hard. I'm not going to single out any particular people. Edwin Cole obviously had a great game. He almost had a triple-double. He had 9 points, 12 rebounds, 8 block shots. I didn't realize he had that many block shots until after it was over with, but he really did step up the second half and contested their inside play.
After the game, Coach K in his interview really, really singled out Edwin's performance and what made life tough for them. And what I thought was impressive, he picked up his 4th foul with 7 minutes to go in regulation and played the rest of the half and the rest of overtime. I was really impressed with that aspect of his game.
There was a timeout sometime late in the ball game, and I don't know if John called it or I called it, but I remember when Ed went back on the floor, I grabbed him for a minute. I said, play like you've got no fouls. Don't worry about it. Just go out and play your game and don't be worried about that situation. And he just smiled, I got you, coach. So, I mean, he did a great job. And, the kids just played – They played hard, and they played together, and they played unselfishly. And, Darren hit a big shot, but Jordan Johnson made a big pass to get it to him. So it was a team effort. And York will be very good Wednesday night. I actually picked them to win the league, and I picked CNU second. And it turned, the other coaches went the other way. But York's got everybody back.
Yep.
They got the Myers kid who sat out last year with an injury, who's 6'7" and is a very good post player. I think they're the most talented team in the conference, and they're currently 5-0 with 6-0.
5-0, 3-0 in conference.
Yeah. So we'll have to play very, very, very well to be able to compete with them. But we're in a nice situation in that it's a very meaningful game, and it's a chance to go 3-0 in the league if we could get them.
I was really impressed, too, in the CNU game in how your team still managed to win in overtime without Lawrence Pettis, and that's something you've mentioned. It's hard to find time to get him off the floor just to rest him, but for that overtime period, Jordan Johnson played in his place, scored 6 points in overtime. Your team never trailed in overtime. Well, what does that say about the resiliency of your group and the ability to rally even without Pettis on the floor?
Well, we've got some depth. I saw Jordan play in late February or early March a year ago when he was at Westmoreland Community College, and I thought, boy, he'd be a really, really good fit for our style of play. He's really good in the open floor. And he scored over 1,000 points as a JUCO player in 2 years. And he's not starting for us right now, but I've really got 9 or 10 starters because we can play 9 or 10 guys an equal amount, and there's not a whole lot of drop off. We've got 2 young backup point guards who aren't getting any playing time because Lawrence is so valuable to us, and it doesn't mean those kids can't eventually play for us. But when Lawrence does go out, we're pretty comfortable with having Tyler Michael play point for a few minutes. We're pretty comfortable with Daniel Alexander playing the point for a few minutes. And Tyler finished the game out at the point when Lawrence went out. And I'm worried about Lawrence because I'm probably going to wear him out because he's playing an awful lot of minutes. But I keep talking to him. I'm fine, Coach. I'm okay. So he's going to play a lot of minutes for us all year long. And, we played the game Saturday without Dalton Goss, who stayed back here because he had the flu.
And he had a career high on Wednesday night.
Correct. And Darren Campbell has been getting, backing Dalton up, or they're playing pretty much an equal amount of minutes at the 5 spot for us. So, Darren got the start, and then ironically he's the one that hits the shot to tie it up. So we've got good depth. We can play 10 guys. We're a little thin inside, but Jeff McMorris gave us some quality minutes Saturday in the first half when we got Ed out. Jeff, scored a field goal. He's a big, strong kid. He's not real tall. He's only about 6'3", but he bodied up their post players and boxed them out. And, we got quality minutes out of him.
Coach K even asked after the game for CNU, mentioned Jeff McMorris and mentioned Chris Costin by name and some of these guys. And he said that having those experienced players off the bench really made a difference in his mind for your team. Can you speak, last question for you, Coach, about the experience of your team and how important that is in winning a lot of these close games, 3-0 in overtime games this year?
It's huge. It's huge. We played CNU down there last year and got down big early and then came back and actually took the lead with around 7 or 8 minutes to go in the ball game, and then eventually lost by, 12 or 13 points. And we couldn't make free throws in the latter part of that game last year, and CNU did. And I remember John and I are pretty good friends, and I really respect him. And he said after the game, he said, Coach, 2 years ago, some of my guys probably wouldn't have made those free throws, that your guys missed. But because he had seniors in his program and experienced juniors, they knocked down their free throws. We didn't. So obviously having the experience is huge for us. And even though Lawrence and Daniel are only sophomores, they both got a lot of playing time the last third of the season for us last year. And then we've got 7 seniors, 4 of whom been in the program for 4 years. So they know our stuff. They know our defensive rotations. They know our out-of-bounds plays. They know our offensive sets because we're doing the same thing we've been doing for the last 3 to 5 years. So that's huge. That's huge. That you can put Chris Costin in, and whether Chris, you got to go play 4, and I know you're only 6'2", and that's not your position, but that's where we need you to play, and it's no problem. He knows what to do, or we put him in at the 2-3 spot. He knows what to do.
It's just an awesome win. CNU had been 35-1 in conference play over the last 2 seasons. A big victory for your Bobcats. This week it's York and St. Mary's. We will have the St. Mary's game on the Bobcat Sports Network. York should be a good one. 2-0 Bobcats against 2-0 York in conference play. Coach, thank you so much for coming on the Bobcast.
You're welcome.
Up next on the Bobcast, we have women's basketball head coach Carrie Saunders. And, Coach, this week a loss to Juniata on Monday, a win over Penn State Harrisburg in the conference opener, and a loss to the second-ranked team in the country, Christopher Newport, on its own floor. And you have a tough loss, a win, and then a big loss. I want to start with Juniata. A game for 3 quarters. It was a 2-point deficit going into the fourth quarter, ended up losing 86-67. What went right early on, and then what went wrong in the fourth, and how does your team learn from it?
Yeah, so Juniata, as I said going into that, is a really intelligent team. They're a tough team, and they're a disciplined team. So I said that we got to play for 4 full quarters, and we got to be disciplined through those 4 quarters. As soon as we start making mistakes and they start capitalizing, we can't get down on ourselves. We've got to make another run. So we played really, really well through 3 of those quarters. We were doing the little things, completing passes, completing those easy layups, getting the ball on the inside, and defending. That was the biggest thing. We were defending well, limiting them to one opportunity. So that was kind of the cause of those 3 quarters is we were just playing well and we were doing those little things right. And then it kind of took a little turn and they hit some big shots and they kind of just swung. The momentum swung really fast in that game. And the score kind of doesn't dictate how close of a game it actually was, through the 4 quarters. But it was a good learning loss for us is kind of what I chalked it up to, and that's a really good team.
Yeah, Juniata, typically a top-half team in its respective conference. You look at the CAC opener, then you have a quick turnaround, 2 days, and you're hosting Penn State Harrisburg, a team that you've handled in the past. It was a 65-55 win. What did you make of that game overall?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to start the CAC, being 1-0 on Wednesday in the CAC, that's what we were aiming for, and that's what we came out with. So that was a really good win for us to start the CAC. We had some other people step up in that game. Amber Downey, for one, played an unbelievable game, got her confidence back and doing things that we all knew that she could do. It just finally happened for her out on the floor. So that was really great to see too. But yeah, it was a good win for us.
Interesting things from that game I want to expand upon. Megan Kelly, another game where she has made 5 threes. Is she playing her best basketball as a member of this team in this year in her career?
Yeah, so Meg's a shooter. And going into this year, I said if you've got space, let it fly. If you're set, you've got to know when you can get your shot off and how you can get your shot off, and that's what she's doing. She's got a lot of confidence in herself. Her teammates have confidence in her to shoot the ball, and that's what Megan Kelly is. She can handle the ball. She can get other people open, but she's a shooter. And I told her shooters got to shoot. So that's kind of what she's doing, and she played really, really well, and there were some big threes in there that she hit as well. So she's playing really great basketball right now.
Victoria Diggs and Megan Kelly, 2 of the top 3-point shooters in the CAC.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, in this game, Diggs had a tough game shooting from the floor, didn't make any baskets anywhere else from the free throw line. Mm-hmm. How important is it for the other players to pick her up when so often she's picking everyone else up in terms of the scoring production?
Yeah, so that was, I think, one of the best things out of that game is that Diggs didn't play well and other people immediately just stepped into roles and filled those voids without panicking. And so that was almost, as a coach, that's really, really great to see when your leading scorer through the 4 or 5 games that we've had so far had a rough night, which is going to happen. That's why we play. That's the great thing about basketball, is seeing those other people step up. So I think that was one of the best things that came out of that win, is that we won with other people scoring and other people stepping up.
And finally, I want to touch on PSH, the size advantage they seem to have on your team inside. How did you combat that, and do you expect other teams in conference play to try to beat you inside out?
Yeah, so we started a little big, and that's always going to be a little bit of an issue for us, especially with our guards, how short we are. We'll run into mismatches a lot of places. But the thing about Harrisburg is they can get you out of your rhythm, both offensively and defensively, and we talked about that a lot, that we just have to stay true to who we are. And we have to be able to get the ball inside and score in the paint. We can't just rely on the three-point, the three-point shot. So, their size is always an issue. Everyone's size is always an issue, no matter who you're kind of going up against. But you have to be able to combat that, and you have to be able to make them work hard to get those shots off in the paint. And I think our post play, Amanda and Sydney and Amber and Yoder all did a really great job that night.
Turned out to be a Bobcat win. And quickly on Christopher Newport, what makes CNU such a good basketball team? They're a top 2 team in the country, return just about all of their Final Four squad from last year. What makes them such a good team?
Their discipline. They're obviously a very talented team, but they're very well disciplined. They're very well coached, and they thrive in the open court. And that was one thing that we talked about is we can't turn the ball over and hand them buckets and hand them layups. And that was something that we struggled with from the start. So CNU is a definitely well-deserved number 2 team in the nation. They're big, they're deep, they're quick, they're fast, they're strong. They've got a little bit of everything. It was definitely a learning experience for us. But we're 1-1 in the conference, and we're looking forward.
Finally, this week, Wilson on Monday night, York Wednesday night, St. Mary's Saturday night. I'm pretty interested in the York game because you've mentioned earlier this year a sense of a revenge factor against Rutgers, Camden, and EMU. York was the team that knocked you out of the playoffs last season. Do you sort of hope for something similar in that vein on Wednesday?
Of course, and that's these are the teams that our team really need to compete with and be able to pull off wins for us to get to where we want to be in the conference. But every game is an important game for us. And Wilson tonight is one of those games that we've got to go in and handle our business before we move on to Wednesday. But of course, every team that we lost to last night, that's why we compete. We want to go out and we want to win, and we want to beat those teams that beat us last year.
The revenge tour continues,
yes.
Hopefully on Wednesday night. Coach Carrie Saunders, thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast.
Thank you.
Up next on the Bobcast, we have men's and women's track and field with head coach Dale Louie. Men's and women's track and field competed at West Virginia University at the Marty Pushkin Classic. The women 4 winners, the men 2 winners. And Coach, this is the first indoor track and field meet of the year. It's the only one before this semester ends and finals, and then things get started back in January. So what were your expectations for this meet, and then how do you think things went?
Well, we very much look at the this as a first meet. We take it seriously, as a meet, but we try to keep it in perspective as well. So, we're going over really and just trying to, we the coaches, and I think it holds true for the athletes too, we're just primarily just trying to get a handle on, all right, where are we at this point, in the season, and use that to start to sort through, who's going to be doing some events down the road, and clearly what do they need from a technical standpoint, et cetera.
On the men's side, what did you see? A couple of wins in the 3,000 and the 5,000 for the men, the distance guys getting it done. What else did you see?
Well, the distance competition over there at first meet is always a little thin just because of coming off of cross country.
Yes.
And we ourselves even leave it a little bit optional for our distance. Most of our distance people as to whether or not they're going to compete coming off of the cross country season. So that kind of distorted the place standings in some way.
Just the field in general.
Right, yeah. Right. On the plus side, we have some people who haven't run some of those events inside. So just as I said earlier, it's a good opportunity to see where they're at on the track versus cross country, and I think that's why a number of them like to get into some of the track meets right away to just kind of assess. All right, I felt pretty good about this cross country season. How's track going to go? And so that's good for them. The other plus on that side with the distance people is we had a fair number of people running, and so they can work off of their teammates and work on some race strategy and pace and things like that.
Would you like to single anyone out on the men's side, distance or otherwise?
That's that's a tough question. We saw a lot of good things there. We have some people there who in the hurdles, we've got some depth there on the men's side that we have not had. And quite frankly, we're going to be a better outdoor hurdle team than an indoor hurdle team because we have guys that are more 400-meter hurdlers rather than high hurdlers. But the fact that we had a large number of guys competing there was nice to see. And, freshman Jake Terry, was our first finisher there, which, was a surprise, to us. But we've got some nice depth there. In the short sprints, we the coaches always joke that all of our sprinters at this meet believe that they are the next coming of Usain Bolt, and they all want to run 60 meters, and they all think they're, collegiate 60-meter runners. It'll be interesting to speak to them this week to see if they still have that opinion. But again, for us, it's as coaches, it's a chance to assess, where we're at. We do have a lot of sprinters. We have a lot of new sprinters on the male side, and that's a good thing, because it gives us options. We ran multiple relays at the end of the meet, which gives people a chance to run more things, which helps with the training. It also shows the depth that we have there, and it gives us a lot of pieces to the puzzle that we want to put together.
Early on, without J.R. Lowry now on the throwing squad, how does that group look to be shaping up?
We're definitely in a period of transition. We're very young on that side, quite frankly, with the exception of Mike Harley, who had a nice day throwing the weight for us. We're talking a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and so that's a good thing. I do think over in the throws, I was a little disappointed. We had some really good practices going into that meet, and I didn't see that carry over with some people. So why that is, we'll have to kind of explore. I'm hoping it's a little bit first meet jitters, throwing against probably more people than they expected, throwing against a number of D2 schools. All that sometimes starts to have an impact on performance and things. But we had some nice performances from people who have shown how much they've grown since last year. One Mason Whetstone is a good example of that. We had some people hitting some PRs there in the first meet. So that's good.
Good to see. Let's switch over to the women's side. Kayla Truesdell, of course, is back this year, and she does what she does, did so in this meet. How does having her around sort of help the rest of the team in their training and then at meets?
Yeah, I think the big plus is at the big meets and things. She's a source of reference. They know that you can compete. It doesn't matter much what NCAA division you're talking about. Division I, Division II, or Division III. She's competitive at all those levels. And so when they watch where she is placing, on the positive side, when she's dusting people, which she did on Saturday in the 60, that gives them a little bit of confidence and some point of reference. One thing I worry about as a coach is when she struggles there a little bit. Do you get some sprinters over there thinking, oh my gosh, Kayla's having issues with some of these people? Where am I at? And stuff. It's a little comforting, I think, to some of the women when they're running relays with her.
Oh, yeah.
To know that she's on that anchor leg and capable of running a lot of people down. As a coach, one of the things you worry about there is that they start to lean too much on her. They need to understand that their job is not to put Kayla behind everybody and see how fast Kayla can run to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, we want Kayla
running
in
away
front.
from people.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And if we want to get to ECACs and nationals and things like that, we need 3 other people in that relay to carry their load. And that was certainly a positive that I saw on Saturday. Again, on the women's side, we ran 2 4x4s. Both of them did pretty well. We had some really nice split times from a number of people. It's our hope that we can actually go to some meets and not run Kayla on some of those relay teams and yet still have highly competitive relay teams. We think we're capable of doing that this year.
Similar to the men's side, anyone you saw improve, last year to this year, or newcomers that you said, hey, nice job?
Well, across the board, in distance, I think Brady Dumichel is in a much better spot than he was last year in terms of his conditioning and health and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see, where he goes with that. Again, in the distance area, we're really very young there, and Jake Rickards and Timmy Wolotkin, Braxton Clark as a freshman. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in track after a really good cross country season. So we've got some real pluses, in that area that I think they'll only get better. Brad Forrester is a multi. We'll move him around in different events and things. He's way ahead of where he's been any other year in different events and in his approach to training with some of those things. So that's going to be interesting. We got a freshman vaulter who I think is going to keep getting better, Josh Maioli. He started out with a real nice season. I mean, he's not vaulting real high right now, but we've been weak in that area, and he shows some promise for us there.
Same thing for the women's side, improvers year to year or newcomers that could help you out.
Kayleen Estrada had a really nice meet. She did multiple events. I think she's shown some real maturity all the way around. She, you might say she was a little bit of a deer in the headlights last year as a freshman, and when things didn't go so well, it was sometimes easy for her to dig herself a little hole. She was just bouncing all around and had a really nice meet in everything she did there, and that's going to be very helpful to us because she does have a lot of versatility. We will probably be competing her in some events and some meets, and other meets switching that around.
Yeah.
That'll be good for her training, good for the team. I mean, she's a jumper, she's a hurdler, she's a sprinter, she's a relay person. Any good track and field team that wants to score points in a big meet, need people with versatility, and that goes across the board in all the event groups. That's just extremely helpful.
And from this point, you don't have another meet until January. I know swimming is a similar time, and Justin has talked to us about how he wants his swimmers to go home and keep swimming, and then they continue to train and gear up. What is the philosophy for you and your staff now with this month-long break, really, until the next meet?
Yeah, it's crucial. I mean, I totally agree with what Justin has said, and it does. Those guys, if they have access to a swimming pool, they're in pretty good shape. For our folks, we recognize that it is a challenge for them to go home and try to train from the standpoint that if the weather does get bad, and of course for some of them the weather gets bad real fast, even though it really doesn't get bad. But for some of them,
yes,
the cloud comes out or whatever, and it's not a good day to practice, coach. So really it is a matter of commitment and dedication on our part, and the people who step up to that will continue to get better over break. And those that don't will be disappointed with, and they'll be disappointed, with their performances. for our throwers, it's always a real challenge in pole vaulters because most of them do not have the opportunity to go do their event somewhere
Yeah,
else.
specific equipment.
Right. They a lot of them don't have that, don't have a place to practice, and so that's not a good thing, for us. But it's just something that we have to live with, and we ask them to, the throwers and the jumpers, we ask them to work on some of the little technical aspects of their events that they can, their footwork, their approach work, staying in shape. One of the things with our throwers we really push is to try to make them better athletes, because we strongly believe the better the athlete they are, the better the thrower. It is a lot of people have the mindset that the more you can bench press or the more you can squat, the better the thrower you are. And quite frankly, we see tons of big guys that and women that can do some of that stuff that can't throw the implement very far at all, just because they're strong, but they can't move. They don't know technique. So that's one thing that we really stress with our throwing program, and I think we've had a fair measure of success with that.
Absolutely. Coach, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you again in January on the
All right.
Bobcast.
Thank you very much.
Up next on the Bobcast for the final time this season, we have head football coach Delane Fitzgerald in Week 14 of the Bobcast. Frostburg State season ends at 11-2 against number 2 Mount Union. The team ends with the most wins in school history, the first quarterfinals appearance in school history in the 32-team bracket, and for all intents and purposes, the most accomplished team in school history. And we talked at the beginning of the year, Coach, the goal was to really go 1-0 every week. You're not really a big picture guy, at least at that point in time. What do you make of the season that you and your young men just had?
So this is the last time. You said the 14th and final time. This is the last time I get invited?
Until next year.
How about that? We must have lost on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. You ask about what do I make of the season? I love this football team. I could get real emotional now because what happened this weekend probably bothers me more now than it did on Saturday. On Saturday, I was concerned about the outgoing seniors and making sure that they understood how important they had been to this university and to this community and more to the football program also. But the changes they've made and everything that's happened here in their 4 years and their commitment and all. The accomplishments, and you're looking for a big picture view. Mm-hmm. We play in the New Jersey Athletic Conference, and we were undefeated against against teams from the state of New Jersey this year. And there's 2 teams in the state of Virginia in our conference, and we were undefeated versus those 2. And then we played 2 Maryland teams on our schedule this year, and we were undefeated against those 2. And we won the Regions Cup for the 2nd year in a row, which I know is very important to the people in Maryland and to our alumni base. But beating Salisbury 2 years in a row, and we've done that now. You know what we've done it 2 years in a row. You know what they call 3 in a row, right?
What's that?
That's a streak. So we're on the cusp of a streak there, and that's important. The one that I'll probably smile about the most is the 24 years of college football that I had never done is we went undefeated the month of November. Play 4 games in November and win them all. It's a big deal. Or was it 5 games? But anyway, win 4 or 5 games in November and not lose a game that month is a huge deal. I'm leaving out some things that we accomplished. Going 9-1 in the regular season. You preseason, you've got 10 games scheduled. All the NCAA allows you to play is 10 games. So winning 9 out of 10 is a huge accomplishment. And then winning 11 overall is a big deal. You have to win 5 to win a national title. We won 2 out of the 5, come up short, and hey, it happened.
It happened, and one thing you've mentioned throughout this season, and you referenced the senior class, I want to get into that just a little bit. You referenced the fact that they signed up for a 1-9 football team with a brand new head coach. How did you get players of this caliber to come to Frostburg, and how have they grown as people and players in that same period of time?
Yeah, I don't believe in luck. I think if you want to be lucky in life, be real talented. If you have talent, you seem to get lucky a lot more, and that's my philosophy in recruiting. I will forever be appreciative and loyal and there for all of our seniors and their parents. I don't know why that they believed in our coaching staff, but they did. And I think this. I think if you have a company and a football program or any organization of like-minded people, I think you have a great chance at success. Are Joe Beckford and Delane Fitzgerald like-minded? Yes. Yes, and does Joe think a lot the same way that our offensive coordinator Ty Hyde thinks? Yes. Flipping that over, do I think Niles Scott and I are similar? Yes, we are, and Niles thinks along the same lines as our defensive coordinator John Kelling. But in going through everyone, and there's too many seniors with 19 to name all of them. But I think we're birds of a feather, and I think we're a lot alike, our senior class and our coaching staff, and I think that's why they came here, because I think they saw themselves in us, and I think their parents saw themselves in our coaching staff and in our university and in our town. And I think that's why they chose Frostburg. I'll miss them. I will miss them young men and the time that I've spent with them over the last 4 years. And we've got a team meeting today to end our 2017 season. So today will be the last day that I spend a lot of time talking about them. So maybe I can't talk about them enough. But my hat's off to them, and I will forever be grateful of what they did for me and for our coaching staff and for the football program and for the university and for this community, because it's all been positive.
Can you identify a turning point of sorts, or even if not, how did the culture shift in these 4 years?
Yeah, I got reminded of this. We had an assistant here a couple years ago that's no longer with us, but he's coaching at another college and a good football coach and a good man, Pete Hansen. Pete Hansen reminded me a month ago, and he's now the D-line coach at Methodist, and he said, Coach, the Brockport game, and Brockport's in the Final Four. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the beatings that we took early on with a young team was the beating that Brockport gave us at their place in 2014. Sometime October of 2014, we go up there, and they're winning 28-0 at halftime, and it felt like 128-0. And my boiling point had boiled over about the way we were playing, but more so about our demeanor, our demeanor and our effort and our body language and the way we were handling ourselves on the road against a good football team. But we went in at halftime, and our coaching staff benched every junior and senior in the football program. We benched every junior and senior that had made the trip. They were not allowed to play in the second half. They weren't even allowed to put their helmets on, and we were going to play all the freshmen and sophomores. Well, the freshmen and sophomores are last year's seniors, and this year's seniors. And we went out, and did we win the football game? No. But we went out, and our young guys played, and they played hard, and they played with a good mentality and a good body language, and we finished the way we were supposed to finish. I think we ended up losing the game 40-0. Okay, we go into the locker room after the game, and the message was this to everybody in our football program, and especially the juniors and seniors at that time: you're never ever going to be allowed to put on this uniform and represent it in a bad way. You're not allowed to represent our football program, our university, our town. You're not allowed to represent your parents or your hometown the way that we represented them in the first half, and it was never going to happen again. And they got it. If you want to get a young man's attention, take his playing time from him. They got to hint really, really fast. Well, fast forward, okay, a week later, we beat number 19 Ithaca on homecoming in a game that by all rights we should have never won. They were a good football program. At that time, we were not a good football program. We beat them in double overtime here for homecoming. I think that's the single biggest moment in our coaching staff's career here, because from the time we got on the bus after that Brockport game until I'm sitting here talking to you, we've had an upward and onward trajectory, and we're going to continue that.
Fantastic. Fantastic story, Coach, for a turning point, a 40-0 loss against Brockport. I do want to touch on this season, and I thought the fact that this team overcame adversity many, many times. I'm thinking about seeing you, Rowan, Kane with TJ Peer, Salisbury in overtime. Wesley, you were down 2 possessions. They had the ball in the red zone. In every single one of those circumstances, the team could have lost and not even been in the playoffs, and they responded in kind in each one. What's your reaction to the adversity that your young men faced this season and how they responded?
You're right. In all the games that you named, you're correct. We could have folded up at Christopher Newport. We could have folded up at Rowan, and we didn't. We were down 11 to Wesley and late in the ball game, and we were down 11 on our own 2-yard line, and we drive and score a touchdown. You're 100% right. Against Salisbury, there were a couple of times that we could have said die and lost that football game. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, Andy, but you're exactly right. I would say this about our young men. We've done a lot of that over the last 4 seasons. We've done a lot of that, hey, it can go either way, and it goes our way. Now, the Wesley game in the middle of the season didn't go our way, but it was a coin flip ball game the entire last 10 or 15 minutes of the game. Our stick-to-itiveness, and that's not a word, but it should be, our stick-to-itiveness is better than everyone else's stick-to-itiveness. You go to just Saturday. Now, we didn't play well on Saturday, but there were times where we could have just folded up and the final score been 50 or 60 to nothing. And everybody still patted us on the back, but our kids didn't want to do that. We're down 20-some points after one quarter, and we come back and score 24 points in the second quarter and do it the way that it's supposed to be done. That was impressive. And then we kept fighting. We scored the last play of the first half on Saturday. We scored the last play of the game on Saturday. Mm-hmm. We continue to fight our stick-to-itiveness. We're going to keep coming, and we're going to keep coming, and we're going to keep coming. Love to take credit for that. But let's give credit to the parents. Our parents in this football program are pretty darn good, and they've done a nice job of raising good young men. Going forward, Andy, I'd like to make a statement to our 19 seniors that are leaving. Continue that stick-to-itiveness through the rest of your life, and you'll be successful. Because the people that are successful in life are the people that keep coming and keep coming and keep coming and continue to improve themselves and get better. And if you don't get what you want at first try, work a little harder for it and try again.
You mentioned a lot of the seniors, several all-conference players, 17 overall for your whole team. A couple of seniors, Jake Townsend, Niles Scott, Josh Washington, back-to-back first-team guys. What does it mean for your program to have so many guys recognized for their play this season by other coaches in the conference?
I think it's really, really good for them. Here's what it means is that we've recruited well, and that our assistant coaches have coached them well, and then they've continued to improve over their time here. And we can do the whole all-conference thing, but where are we at without Jordan Proctor and his contribution to this football program over the last 4 years? And he got overlooked in some things. And Joe Beckford's a better football player than people think he is. And I could go down Sean Madgenson. Stick-to-itiveness. I'm using the word too much now, but how about him? Sean Madgenson closes. The Tom Rogish era here at the university. He actually played the year before we got here, played 2 years for us, and then redshirted a year and then played another year. I think Sean started a game at like 3 different positions on defense, and I could keep going on and on. Javon Alexander and Aaron Gibson finally got the credit he deserved as a senior, but a good little football player. Dante Chenery's a great football player. Josh Washington's a great football player. I could keep talking about those young men. Hey, very, very appreciative of Graham Brochard and Jordan Lyles, and I'm leaving somebody out. I don't have any choice but to leave somebody out because there's too many of them. But Maurice Fisher and all those seniors need to know that we care, and thank you.
Finally, moving forward, Frostburg is looking to be an elite program. Your Mount Unions of the world, the Wesleys, Mary Hardin Baylors, they're able to continue success despite graduation and roster turnover. How is extended success possible at Frostburg State?
You recruit back to back really good classes. You recruit people, you recruit young men that are talented and of high character, and you're always going to be pretty good. Now, if you recruit them talented and high character, and then your strength and conditioning staff and your coaching staff can develop them over a 4-year period, you have a chance to be great. which is what we're planning to do and going forward. Yeah, I've heard the rumor that there'll be some drop off next fall. Not going to buy into it now. Not buying into it in August. The expectation is the same. The expectation is to make the postseason and then win every postseason game. But more so than that, our expectation is that our players and coaches get a little better each day.
Well, Coach, I think that'll do it here on your final time on the Bobcast this year. Anything left to add about Frostburg football?
At 10 a.m. next Monday, I'm going to be sitting in my office, and I'm going to think to myself, I'm missing something. There's something missing in my life right now. And what it's going to be is nobody's going to come in and say, hey, it's your turn to do the interview. It's your turn to do the Bobcast. So yeah, you are now creating a void in my life. So I see how sad you are across the room from me.
It's breaking me up.
Yeah, it's breaking you up. You're going to cry when this is all over. Hey, 2017 was fun. What a fun ride that our seniors took us on. I can't say anything more than that. All of our players and our seniors, what a fun ride. What a fun 4 years. We're going to put it away today, and we'll start working on 2018. As of about 5 p.m. today, it'll be 2018 Frostburg football, onwards and upwards.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you for having me.